So last lecture we had covered the we had tried to understood what is there in the how we are going to study FM, and then what are the three major decisions which a financial manager has to take or the finance manager has to take. So one is the financing decision, investment decision, and the dividend decision, and that's how I tried to bring your chapters here in between. Like in financing decision, these are the three chapters which you have to study. For investment decisions, short term, you have working capital management. For long term, you have capital budgeting. And for dividend decisions, you have this another chapter, dividend policy. And you have another three chapters, portfolio management, derivatives, and forex. We also started with the understanding the concept of cost of capital without getting into the formulas. So cost of capital, we just understood that there are three sources of capital. So you have equity, preference, and debt. And equity also includes the reserves. And when we talk about cost, it is the service payment which you have to do for each of these separate source of capital. So for debt, you need to pay interest. For preference, you need to pay fixed preference dividend. So these two are the fixed commitment which a company has to make the payment. And when we talk about equity, there is no fixed commitment as per uh, the equity dividend is concerned, but yes, there are certain expectations from the equity shareholders that either their dividend should be received or their investments should have a significant appreciation which can compensate for the loss of dividend. So either I have invested 100 rupees, so either I get 20 rupees as dividend or my share price goes up to 120 rupees. So either way, there is a return for the equity shareholders, and this is again is called as the expectation of the equity shareholder. And in fact, the entire cost of capital is what it is, the expectation of the provider of these funds. So you take loan from a bank, the bank expects you to pay 10% interest. So that's your cost of capital because that is the expectation of the bank who is providing you the money, the lender, right? Then we tried to understand all these same point. Now, why cost of capital is important? Because it becomes the basis for your investment decision. So you have to invest in a project, so you compare two things. One is the return and another is the cost. Cost is represented with K in the financial management. So you compare these two, the return and the cost. And based on this, you try to find out whether it is a worth investment or it's not a worth investing in that particular project. So even though the return may be good, but if your cost is too high or if it exceeds your cost, only then you invest in the project. But if your return is low, even if it is exceeding, so let's say I say a project is giving you a return of 8%. You would say 8% is a very less return. But if let's say your cost of capital is only 5%, you won't mind investing in this particular project because still you are making a surplus of 3%. So in all, return should be greater than the cost. So this is the investment decision. And for this, the cost of capital determination is essential. And that's what is given here, return versus the cost. That's what is the basis for your investment decision. Then we also learned that cost of capital, as I said, it is represented with K. Cost of debt is KD, cost of preference is KP, cost of equity is KE, and cost of reserves is KRE. Now, one question should come into your mind that if equity also includes reserves, like how I mentioned here, equity also includes reserve. So why do we have two separate? Why do we have KE and why do we have KRE? Why don't we just have KE? So the answer to this question would be that usually, if we see, the cost of equity is equal to the cost of retained earnings, except one situation. And what is that except one situation? We will do when we study cost of equity today itself. So every situation will have cost of equity equal to the cost of retained earning, except one situation where the cost of equity will be greater than as compared to the cost of retained earning. So what is that situation? We'll do it today. Then how to determine this cost? So as I said, higher the risk, higher the return. But then we understood one more word is added to the statement. It is higher the return, higher the risk, higher will be the expected return. So everyone who invests in your money is having it is undertaking risks. Whosoever is the lender, he or she is taking some risk. So based on this risk, the return expectation comes. So we saw that if we invest in the government security, the risk is zero, therefore the return can be less, it is absolutely fine. So this is called as the risk free return, RF. This is called as the risk free return. Then if someone is investing in the debt, it has more risk as compared to the government security, and hence the return will be not same like a risk free return. The person will expect something more than the risk-free return. So let's be presumed here at 8%. Then preference take more risk as compared to the debt. Then the return will again more than what is the cost of debt. So here 8, we have presumed it 12, and same goes for the equity. So the excess amount what the person is expecting is called as the risk premium. So here when we saw debt, for 1 unit of risk, what was the risk premium? The risk premium was 3%. For preference share capital, 2 unit of risk, the risk premium was 7%. For 3 unit of risk, the risk premium was 10%. So this is how we try to understand what are how the cost of equity, cost of debt, and cost of preference is determined. So we have a risk-free return, risk zero. So this is risk-free return. RF is risk-free return, and on risk-free return, you add a risk premium through which you get the actual cost of capital here. Then we also saw that if a company borrows money by way of a loan, or if the money company raises funds through preference share capital, does it make a difference? Because prima facie, if you see, both the types of funding requires a fixed amount of payment which is to be done. So let's say I have raised 5,000 rupees and I need to pay a fixed payment of 500 rupees as a interest or as a preference dividend. So does it make a difference? So answer was yes, because interest is a tax deductible expense. Rather, interest is the expense, and preference dividend, it is not an expense, hence it is not tax deductible. Preference dividend is simply your appropriation of profit. So you don't get any tax benefit when you pay preference dividend. But when you pay interest, it is an expense. So it is a charge against profit. And that's the reason you get tax benefit. That is 500 rupees is your cash outflow. But with your 500 rupee cash outflow as interest, you are also saving certain amount of money by way of tax reduction. So this is what we saw. So as you pay interest, your profit before tax falls down, and since your profit before tax falls down, your tax payment falls down. So you are paying a interest of 500 rupees. So this is your outflow, and we have put a bracket to this. Any amount which has bracket, it means it is a outflow. And let's presume you save a tax of 70 rupees here. So this is again a positive. So technically you are paying 500 rupees, but with that you are also reducing your tax liability by 70 rupees. So your net outflow is what? Your net outflow is only 470 rupees. Whereas in case of preference dividend, if you pay 500 rupees, the entire amount is your outflow. So this is what we tried to understand in the last lecture, how the interest and the preference dividend play an important role in the capital structure. So when we will do this same chart will be again, we'll cover it again once we do capital structure. So just remember this chart as well. So just a quick recap of this chart, we have sales, we deduct all the expenses. So the first amount that we get is earnings before interest, tax, depreciation, amortization. And just for practical knowledge, now you will also see here coronavirus, right? You'll find it on Twitter, EBITDA C. I'll send you an image for that, right? So you have earnings before interest, tax, depreciation, amortization. You deduct the depreciation and amortization. No, but there is a logic also for this, because coronavirus, the losses pertaining to coronavirus is again unprecedented, and it is a one time, it's an unusual expense that has happened. So that's the reason they try to deduct it, keep it before. Right, what are your earnings before coronavirus? Because whatever losses you have incurred due to coronavirus pandemic, you are not going to face that 5 years down the lane or next year. So, and even if you have to compare, so this was not there before. So that's the reason they put it like this. So they try to identify specific losses due to COVID, and they put it like this, right? So anyway, coming back to this income statement. So you have earnings before interest, tax, depreciation, amortization. You deduct the depreciation and amortization amount, so you get the earnings before interest and tax. You deduct interest, you get profit before tax. You deduct tax, you get profit after tax. And from this profit after tax, you deduct preference dividend, so you get equity shareholders earning. Now remember, this is also profit, right? EBITDA C is also profit, EBIT is also profit, PBT is also profit, PAT is also profit, this is also profit. But what's the difference between the three profits here? Just one thing, that when I say EBIT is profit, the company has earned profit for all the debt plus the preference plus the equity. Okay, just keep this thing in mind. because when we will do working capital management, we will also study ratio analysis. Okay. And in ratio analysis, this part plays a very important role. This will help you not to mug up the formula. So let's say you have to give two papers. One is financial management and another is, let's say, tax. You have to give these two papers. And so this is 100 marks FM, 100 marks tax. Now you have scored, let's say, 60 marks in FM. You have scored some score in tax, okay, but institute forgets to add that and they say you have got 60 marks out of 200, hence your result is F, right? Will you accept this?
No,
Why?
you've not added
The tax
my
marks. But
taxation.
how does it make a difference? No, don't say that you have failed, but how does it make a difference? Why? What is wrong in this?
It's not the right thing, no, because
Why?
they've not added one component of it. So the ratio becomes lesser.
So the problem is your denominator has the aggregate for two elements and your numerator has the element of only one. Yes or no? So
Yeah.
either you remove this tax or you add the tax marks here, correct? And
Correct.
based on that, you can decide whatever is your score. So same way, when we will be calculating return on different types of funds. So if I say return on capital employed, return on shareholder fund, return on equity. So at that point of time, everything is written. PBT is also written, PAT is also written, EBIT is also written, earnings available for equity shareholder is also written. But if I say you have to calculate return on equity and you say EBIT upon equity shareholder fund, is this formula correct? If you have to calculate return on equity, is this formula correct?
EIT on.
Equity shareholder fund. So that is your equity share capital plus your reserves. Is this formula correct?
I really don't understand. Sorry.
Okay, I'll just ask it in a different manner. I am saying you need to calculate return on equity. Okay.
Okay.
So whenever you have to calculate any kind of return, you in percentage form, you in numerator, you take the return in terms of rupees. Okay. And in denominator, you keep the amount which was invested. Correct.
Correct.
Now I say my return is EBIT and in denominator, I write equity share capital. And this is how I calculate return on equity. Is this correct or this is wrong? Is this correct or this is wrong?
This is right, no?
This is right. No, this is wrong. Why?
Why?
Because denominator has got only equity share capital.
Hmm.
So the return which is exclusively for equity share capital should be there in numerator. Yes or no?
Okay, understood. Yeah.
It's like I have taken only 100 marks of FM in the denominator and
Understood.
on
Yeah.
numerator I've added tax as well as FM. So,
Correct.
so
Correct.
that's the difference here you need to take into consideration when you apply. So this is what I've said you. So forget any formula. Whenever in general also you're trying to do any kind of analysis, just keep this thing in mind that the numerator and denominator should correspond to each other. Right, there should be a relation. So when I say EBIT is for debt plus equity plus preference. So same way, if I have to calculate return on shareholder fund. Now, can I take EBIT on numerator?
No,
No. Why? Because
because it
shareholder
still
fund
has correct. It has preference and equity
equity.
both in it. Yeah.
So, so EBIT is the profit which is for both debt, equity, and preference. However, profit after tax, this is for preference and for equity. So if I have to calculate return on shareholder fund, which is the correct profit which will be there in the
Pat.
numerator, it is
Pat.
PAT. And if I have to calculate return on equity, it is the earnings
Earning.
for the this is exclusively for equity shareholder.
Hmm.
This is exclusively for equity shareholder, right? So just keep this thing in mind. This will be relevant so many times when we do various questions in FM, not just
Hmm.
cost of capital or ratio, even when we do portfolio, any kind.
Hello. Hello. Your voice is cracking. Hello.
Hello. Yeah.
Yeah. Sorry, your voice was cracking.
Okay. So any kind of analysis you try to draw in financial management, you need to just keep one thing in mind, that the numerator should correspond with denominator. Whatever you're taking in the denominator should be there in numerator as well. Okay.
Okay.
Then again, if you see, we tried to understand what is the net outflow. So this was in case of the debt, and this was in case of preference. So with the same amount of service cost of 1000, the overall cost in preferences, sorry, it's more. So that's how we try to draw that when we calculate the cost of debt, we deduct the interest component. So 500, 1 minus tax, and that's how we get cost of debt. Thereafter, we try to understand that when we pay issued debentures, if the debentures are issued at par, premium, or discount, what is going to be the impact on cost of debt? So if they are issued at premium, the cost comes down. If they are issued at discount, the overall cost goes up as compared to when they are issued at par. So we try to understand this. So effectively, what cost comes up is again, it gets changed when we calculate the cost of debt when these debts are issued at premium or they are issued at discount. So we try to understand the second point, that cost of debt or cost of reference, both we divided by the net proceeds. Okay. So and what is the net proceeds? It is the amount which is actually received by the company, and interest and preference dividend both is to be calculated on the face value and not on the issue price. So debentures, and again, we try to understand it is not just par, premium, or discount. If there is any flotation cost, this is called as flotation cost. Okay. So this 15 rupees flotation, I think I've written this also somewhere. No, if I've not written, no, I've not written. I'll write it here. So there is a concept of flotation cost. So this flotation cost is basically an expense which is incurred to issue the shares, incurred to issue the security. So if you are issuing debentures, you are paying any commission to the broker, or you're paying any prospectus printing expenses, or you're paying any fees to SEBI, everything gets come here. Now this flotation cost can be again expressed in terms of rupees, or this can also be expressed in terms of percentage. Now if it is given in terms of percentage, so let's say in this same question I say the shares are, or the debentures are issued at 130 rupees, the flotation cost is 3%. Now this 3% will be of 130, or this 3% will be of the face value. So if question is silent, take it on the issue price, but sometimes the question specifically mentions that the flotation cost is to be taken as a percentage of the face value, then you can again take 3% of the face value. Otherwise, we take at the percentage of the issue price, right?
Issue price.
So this was when we discussed about the redeemable, irredeemable debentures, okay, and irredeemable preference shares. Now, don't try to mingle Companies Act with here, because in Companies Act you cannot issue irredeemable debentures, you
Yeah.
cannot issue irredeemable preference shares. But in financial management, you can do that, right? And ultimately, at the end of the day, there will be a problem which will be given to you, and you'll have to find out the cost of that particular debt or preference. So institute is not testing your company law knowledge in FM paper. So no, because this actually happened in one of the paper in CS executive in accounts. So the debentures were issued and the loss of debentures was to be written off. So the total duration of the debentures was somewhere around 15 years. Student wrote at the end of the answer that the debentures cannot be issued for, it cannot be, it has to be redeemed within a period of 10 years from the date of issue. Hence,
Correct.
the question is incorrect.
I agree with the student.
Right? Even I agree with that student, but again, you have to see that institute is not testing your company law knowledge there. Institute was trying to test that do you know how to write off the losses or not? Okay. And
Maybe
today,
somebody who wrote the question didn't know company law.
no, it's not like that. It's
They
not like,
didn't think about it. Actually, last time also you told me this. I wanted to tell you, but you can't have irredeemable. That
right.
concept was long back in
56 Act.
56 Act. That also got ruined before the 56 Act got done.
Correct.
That also got away with.
Correct. But as I said, institute in your FM paper is not going to test your company law knowledge. It is trying to test your uh,
FM.
calculations, FM, right? The calculations part. And also, I would say that today it's not allowed. You never know. It may be allowed with the amendment in the Companies Act, say near future. So at that point of time, you cannot say I need to go back to the basics and
Yeah.
try to learn, right? So that's how we get it here. So this is irredeemable debenture in irredeemable preference. But whenever the debentures are to be redeemed, at that point of time, we will have a additional component, that is the loss on redemption or the gain on redemption, and that loss or gain is again proportionately written off over the life of debentures with the cost of debt. So we saw that company had, so a basic plain vanilla an analysis we did, that the debentures are issued at 100 and these were to be redeemed at 125. So the company is paying 25 rupees extra and these debentures are to be redeemed after 5 years. Hence, this 25 rupees will be written off over a period of 5 years, and the 5 years, this comes out to 5 rupees. So 5 rupees we will add it here, right? So I had deducted because for this, if it's a gain, we will deduct. And if it's a loss, then we are going to add 5 rupees to the interest cost. And that's our overall interest cost of debt. Again, it can increase or it can decrease. So debentures, when they are redeemable, we have to adjust the difference between the redemption value and the issue price along with the interest. And this is how we finally got the formula for our cost of debt and for cost of preference. Now, there is one logic that I haven't said you, the logic for this. You again need to hold on for one more lecture, right? Where I will give you. So let's not, I think one, I think you'll have to wait for 2 lectures. And then once we are through with all, then I will tell you the logic why we have this in the denominator, redeemable value plus the net proceeds by 2, right? Why do we take this? So this is what was there in your cost of preference and cost of debt. Now we have the third component, that is cost of equity. So till now, Delnas, do you have any doubt?
No.
No. Okay. So when we talk about cost of equity, we know that there is no fixed payment that you need to pay to the equity shareholders, right? But still there is certain expectation from the equity shareholder which the company has to fulfill. And if the company does not do that, at that point of time, company is again going to lose money, right? The shareholders are going to dump the shares and they'll go out of the market. Now, when we say cost of equity, we need to see what is the nature of the equity. And by nature, I say that equity share, does the company have growth or the company does not have a growth? So one is with growth, another is with zero growth. Now, what does this mean? So when I say growth, by the way, what we are studying here in cost of equity, same thing will get repeated when we do the dividend policy. Okay,
Okay.
I'll tell you how. Right. So when we do dividend policy, you will realize the same thing we are going to discuss when we do dividend policy. So what we are trying to find out here is the cost of equity. And what will be given here? We will be given here the dividend. We will be given here the equity share price. Okay. We'll be given the D, we'll be given the price. And what we have to find out is the cost of equity. Okay. This is what we need to find out. Dividend is given, price is given. This we need to find out. This is your cost of equity, or this is your cost of capital chapter. When we will study dividend policy, dividend will be given, cost of equity will be given. You will have to find out what is going to be the impact on the equity share price.
Okay.
Got it?
Yeah.
So still you'll have a vague idea about it because we haven't done the question. So once we do the question, you will understand. So right now in this, the company will say that, okay, the question will say that company is paying a dividend of this much rupees and the share price of the company is this amount. Now tell us what is the cost of equity. So you will find out the cost of equity. When we will do dividend policy, the question will again be like this, that the cost of equity of the company is so much, the company has paid a dividend of this price, this much amount, what is the impact on the price? And that's how you're going to find out the price. So the formula will remain same. The same formula will be there. So once you are studying cost of equity, just keep one thing in mind. We are also covering the dividend policy. Though in dividend policy, we will have some separate sort of questions also, but the core concept will be same.
Okay.
Everything will revolve around these three terms: the dividend, the price, and the cost of equity. So one or the other you will have to find out. Okay. You can also get a question like this, that the cost of equity is this, the company wants the share price to be this. Now tell us what should be the dividend to be paid. Getting?
Understood.
So everything you'll have it here. So why I said you, so that you remember this once we again do the dividend policy. So let's
When you
check
say price, you mean
the market
market
price.
price?
Yes, the market price. The market price. Once we do that. So first let's understand what do you mean by this growth and what do you mean by this zero growth. So when I say there is zero growth, this means you have invested 100 rupees in the company. This 100 rupees will give you a return of 10 rupees. Now earlier, last lecture we had covered that if the company pays zero dividend, the company has now 110 rupees, correct?
Yes.
And next time you will again earn a return of 10%, and this is going to be 11 rupees, correct?
Yes.
This is the growth model. But when I say zero growth, this means even if this 10 rupees is retained by the company, next year company is going to earn 10 rupees only. There will be no return on this retained earning. Okay.
Okay.
But when I say growth, this means 100 rupees, you get a return of 10%. So this becomes 110. You pay zero dividend. You have 110 rupees invested in the company, and next year company is going to pay 10%. So you will get a dividend of 11 rupees. Got it? And in zero growth, irrespective whether the dividend is the retained earnings are, they are invested, they are distributed, it doesn't matter. You are still going to get 10 rupees dividend. So zero growth means, so when I say zero growth, so zero growth would mean that fixed dividend will be given every year. Fixed dividend of the same amount every year. There will be no growth in dividend. But when I say the equity shares with growth, then the dividend is going to grow constantly at a fixed rate. At a fixed rate. So here, if I say the dividend of 25 rupees, so every year you are going to get 25 rupees. This is going to be every year. But here, if I say there is a growth, then just see. For example, let's say in year one, you have paid a dividend of 10 rupees. And let's say there is a growth, and the growth is, let's presume 5%. What will be your dividend in the second year? It will be 10 rupees plus 5%. So you will get 10 rupees 50 paisa. Okay. Then what will be your return in the third year? It will be 10 rupees 50 paisa
50 paisa plus 5%.
plus 5%. And this is going to happen infinitely.
Hmm.
Okay. So zero growth means every year same dividend. And when I say there is a growth, then the growth is at a constant rate, right? The growth is at the constant rate, but the dividend amount keeps on increasing, right? So just keep this thing in mind. What grows constantly? The dividend.
Yeah.
The dividend. Oh, the dividend grows constantly, but the growth rate is fixed. Okay. So I would say the DPS is going to grow at the rate which will be constant. Like in this case, it is what? 5% per annum. Got it?
Yeah.
Don't get confused. Again, I'm saying the rate will be constant. Okay, the rate will not change. The rate will be constant. What is going to increase is your dividend payout. The dividend per share is going to grow every year. Right? Okay. Now, before going ahead with the formula for the cost of equity and all those things, we will again go back to the basics of financial management, and we'll start with the formula which we have studied in our schools, right? Fourth or fifth standard, we must have studied. You remember the formula for compound interest?
No, I now don't recall.
Okay, so the formula for compound interest is A is equal to P into 1 plus R to the power n. Do you remember this formula?
Okay, I don't
Oh,
recall.
okay.
Sorry.
Okay, not a problem. So this is amount is equal to principal amount. So what does this formula
Yeah,
say?
yeah, right.
Remember?
Principle. Correct,
Right.
correct.
So
Yeah.
principal. So there were two
Principle.
formulas. One was compound interest, another was simple
Yeah.
interest.
Yeah,
Simple
yeah,
interest
yeah.
was PRT upon 100.
Yeah, yeah.
This was simple interest and this was compound
Correct.
interest. Okay. So what is relevant for us is compound interest. What does this formula says? It says that if you invest P amount today,
Mm.
then after n years, you will make a return at the rate R%, and whatever you have invested today will become this. Yes or no?
Yes.
So I am just replacing the same formula with this. So tell me, P is you are investing today. So can I write this as present value?
Yes.
And since A, you are going to get it in future.
Hmm.
Can I write A as FV, future value?
Future value. Yeah.
So future value is equal to present value 1 plus R to the power n. Does this formula make sense?
Yes.
All right. Now I say with the same formula. So this is if we have to find out A. What if I give you A and I want you to find out P? What will be the formula in that case? If you have to find P, what is going to be the
P is equal to 1 plus R raised to n upon divide by A
so no, basically this will be
into A.
A divided by 1
Oh,
plus R
1.
to the
Sorry.
power n, right? So this is basically like this. P into 1 plus R to the power n is equal to A. So if we
Right.
have to find out P, this will go to the denominator,
Correct. This will go down.
right? Okay.
Yeah.
So applying the same logic, what we have applied here, this formula will become like this. P will become present value
Yeah.
equal to what is A?
FV.
Future value
Future value.
upon 1 plus R to the power n.
This
Next,
R will be percentage return or what will
yes,
it?
percentage.
So
This
when
will
they
be
say 30% return, do we write 30 or do we write 0.30?
0.30,
0.30. Okay.
0.30, right?
Okay.
So does this formula make sense?
Yes. Yes.
Okay. So if I say you invest, let's say, I give you an example here. If I say you invest in year 0, let's say 1000 rupees, and after 5 years, what amount you are going to get, you need to find out if you are getting a return. So after 5 years, you are going to get the amount, and the rate of return is, let's say, 12%. Can you find out the future value?
Yeah.
Can you? So what will be the future value?
1 second. Huh? Rate is this, after 5 years is n. Okay, so P. So basically we started with P into.
P is 1000, correct?
Correct. So P into. So 1000 into 1 plus return upon n is equal to. So
1000 into
bracket 1
plus
plus
0.
0.12%, 0.12
To the
upon
power
5.
5, correct?
Yeah.
So then we solve this 1000 into 1.12 to the power 5, correct?
Yeah.
And how do we do this? This is 1000 into point. So which calculator do you use?
Cashew.
Casio. Okay, no, there are different variants of the Casio. That okay.
Just
So
1 second, I'll just get that.
sure.
Yeah. So it's a very small one actually.
Okay. So what I want you to do, just check in your calculator, tap 1 into 1.12 and press equal to.
Sorry.
1
Hmm.
into 1.12 and press equal to.
1, 1. Yeah.
So you get 1.12, correct?
Yeah.
Now press again equal to.
Okay.
What do you get?
Nothing. 1.12.
1.12 only.
Yeah.
Okay, so then your calculator is the different one. So you're using the one which I am using. Okay, anyway, so what you have to do is 1 into 1.12. So that is one time. Then again multiply into 1.12. So what do you get now?
1.2544.
So now we have multiplied twice, right? Again into 1.12. What do you get now?
1.404928.
So we have done it thrice, right? Into 1.12 and into 1.12.
1.76234.
So what you have solved is this part, 1 into 1.1.12 to the power 5. You have solved it. Now just multiply that with 1000.
1762.34.
Right? So this is your answer. Okay.
Okay.
Now, this was example number 1. Now I will raise another example.
Any particular calci that I need for this?
No, absolutely fine. Absolutely fine. There are certain calculator in which if you just keep on pressing equal to, it gives you the, like, you don't have to multiply into 1.12 every time. So So there are certain calculators in which there is a shortcut function, but that doesn't matter. Even I don't use that calculator. So even in mine, if you press equal to multiple times, nothing will happen.
Okay.
Okay, so nothing to worry. Absolutely fine. The one which you are using is absolutely fine. Okay, so anyway, the skill is more important than the tool. So बोलते हैं ना सचिन के बैट से अगर हर कोई सेंचुरी मार लेता तो क्या बात थी. So it's absolutely
Yeah.
fine. Just see now what I'm trying to say. Example number 2. So here I said you have invested 1,000 rupees today. You need to find out what you're going to get after 5 years if the rate of interest is 12%. Now, my second example, in this I make a timeline and I tell you that this is year 0 and I say at the end of year 5. Here you are going to get 5,000 rupees. The rate of interest is 10% and you need to find out what amount should I invest today. So technically what I've given you, I've given you the future value and what you need to find out is the present value.
Present value.
So it's the exact opposite. I had given you the present value. I had given you N, R was given to you. And what you had to find out? You had to find out the future value. This is the right opposite. I've given you the future value and you need to find out the present value using R, and you know what is N equal to? N is equal to 5, correct?
Okay.
So how will you find out? The same formula we are going to use. It
Yeah.
is
Future
the
value upon 1 minus plus
one.
rate at the number of years.
So this is your present value. Okay. Now, in this case, it will be 5,000
Yeah.
divided by 1.10 to the power 5, correct?
Yeah.
So just in your calculator, tap 5,000.
Yeah.
Divide by 1.1. What do you get?
4545.4545.
So this is once we have done, correct? We have to do the same thing 4 more times. So divide by 1.1. What do you get?
4132.23.
Okay.
No problem.
So you got 4132, correct?
Yes.
Now divide by 1.1.
3756.
So we have divided thrice, correct?
Yeah.
Now again divide by 1.1.
3415.067.
Now once again 1.1.
3104.6066.
Right. So this is your present value.
Tell me one thing.
Yes.
If I do 1.1 into 1.1 into 1.15 times, and then I say 5,000 divided by that number, I will still get this, right?
Absolutely.
Yeah. This is just a shorter way of doing it.
Yes. And just wait for some more lectures. I'll show you another shortcut for this also.
Okay.
We'll have another shortcut and that shortcut will be given in your question paper only. So what
Okay.
is 1 divided by, so what you were saying that 1.1 into 5 times, that amount will be given in the question paper only.
Okay.
You just have to pick up that amount from the question paper. So straight away you will divide 5,000 divided by that very amount from the question paper and you'll straight away get this amount.
Understood.
But again, I believe in going very, very slow so that
Yeah.
the concepts are very concrete. So let's say you don't want to waste time in looking at the question paper. You're comfortable with this concept. Everything is fine.
Yes. Yes. No. This is nice.
Yes. So this is how you get the present value, right? So this is the
Okay.
second example. Again, plain vanilla question, first, second. Now, I am going to complicate this a little. So if I say, by the way, we have not even started cost of equity.
Okay.
Right. So I make a very simple question now. So this is year 0. This is year 1 and this is year 2. I say after a year, you are going to 1 year, you are going to get 500 rupees. And at the end of second year, you are going to get 800 rupees. Okay. The rate of interest is, let's say, 8%. Now you have to find out the present value. You have to find out the present value.
Okay.
So what will you do?
Present value is, you can take any 1 year, right?
No, no,
So we'll
both. You have to find out consolidated present value for both.
yeah.
Again,
No, but can I just question? Just can
sure.
I not, take future value as 500,
Yes,
then use
absolutely.
that formula
Yes, this
and
is
then
the
get the present value, because future value for one also is going to be uh, present value will be same for uh, future value 1 and 2. It is just the year difference because the n will change.
absolutely. So you have actually got the point. So this 500 is future value and this is future value at the end of year 1. This 800 is the future value and this is the future value at the end of year 2. And consolidatedly, you need to find out the present value for both 500 rupees and for 800 rupees, and you just need to add it up. Yes or no?
Yes.
So formula is still same. The formula is future value upon
Upon
1
1
plus r
plus rate or n.
n is equal to present value. So same thing you are going to do twice. Correct? So
Correct.
you will say 500 rupees is equal, the present value is equal to 500 rupees upon 1 plus. So r, this is 8%. So what we are,
0.8.
no, 0.08,
0.08. Yes, sorry.
right? 0.8 will become 80%.
80%. Correct.
So that's the reason, purposely I made it 8% because many times this error happens,
Yeah.
right? So this will be to the power 1 plus, we'll say 800,
800 upon
1
1
plus
plus
0.08
0.08
to the power
upon
2.
2.
So this is, we can solve it right now. So
Yeah.
500 divided by
Upon
1.08.
1.08.
So what is the amount?
1 second. 500 divided by 0.08 will be 6250.
You have divided or you have multiplied?
Just 1 second. 1.0. Sorry, 462.9. So 463.
Okay, so I had not solved this, but I instantly got to know that you have said it wrong. How?
Yeah, because the amount came more than
Yes. So
500.
exactly. So just remember, once you are calculating the present value cannot be more than the future value,
Correct.
because
Yeah.
that goes exactly opposite of the concept of time value of money, what we are
Yeah.
studying right now. Okay. So this is, what was the amount? 400.
462.96.
So let's write 462. We are ignoring the decimals as of now.
Okay.
And when we'll calculate the present value for 800, what will be the amount?
1 second. Huh? 1.08 into 1.08 is equal to 1.1664. So 800 divided by 1.1664. 800 divided by 1.1664 is equal to 685.87.
So this is 685.
Yeah. And
Okay.
then we add these two.
Then we add these two amounts, correct? So
Yeah.
462 plus 685, you get 1147 rupees.
Yeah.
Sorted?
Yeah.
All right. Now we get into the fourth example. And here I say 0. This is year 1. This is year 2. This is year 3. This is year 4, and so on till infinite. I say at the end of year 1, you are going to get 50 rupees.
Mm.
At the end of year 2, you are going to get 50 rupees. At the end of year 3, you are going to get 50 rupees. At the end of year 4, you are going to get 50 rupees. And this is going to carry on infinitely. Now, how will you find out the present value? The rate is 10%. The rate is 10%. You need to find out the present value.
Okay. Mm. We can use the same formula
Can
for
we?
50. No, I'm saying,
Mhm.
but you want the total present value.
Yes, because here that's what we did.
Correct. We've
So
added the two variables.
yes,
But
so if
here
you calculate
we don't
50,
know the number of years. How
yes,
do
so
we
the
do
number
that?
of years is infinite. So
Yeah.
50 you calculate present value. So this 50. So for 1 year you can do that. Second year you can do that. Third year, fourth year, fifth, sixth, seventh, eighth, ninth, 10th, 11th. Then you cannot go up to
Right.
100, 200,
Yeah.
300 because again the n is infinite. So how do you get?
I don't know.
Okay. So one thing is clear that we can't use this formula, correct?
Correct. Yeah.
Okay. So in this case, we calculate present value using this formula. Present value is equal to future value divided by R. Present value is equal to future value divided by R. Simple. So what is the
Okay.
future value here?
50.
50. What is R?
Rate is 10%. So
10%.
point
So 5.
10.
So 0.10 or you 10%, whatever you write, it is 500 rupees.
Okay.
500 rupees is the present value of
This.
this. Okay.
Okay. Okay.
I will also tell you the logic for this. I'll show it to you in the Excel that how this formula holds true. But
Okay.
just remember, you cannot use this formula here, though this formula is again derived from this only.
Understood.
But if there is a cash flow, so it is going constantly, right? No, I mean, the cash flow is constant and it is arising for infinite years. So if it is the case, how you calculate the present value? You calculate present value like this. Okay.
Okay.
Now we have example number 5. The same timeline I'm going to make. 0. This is 1. This is 2. This is 3. This is 4. And infinite. Okay. So here I say you are going to get 50. Here I say you will get 50 plus 10%. So this is 55.
Yeah.
Here I say you get 55 plus 10%, right? So 55, 10% is 60.5. Here I say you are going to get 60.5 plus
That's 10%.
plus 10%. So this is
66.5.
66.55 and
Yeah.
this is going to continue for infinite years, which means fifth year you are going to get what you got in fourth year plus 10%. So can you see the difference between example number 4 and example
Yeah.
number 5?
Yeah.
So
Yes.
here the amount
The
was arising for infinite
constant.
years, but amount was constant.
Correct.
But here the amount is increasing every year,
Yes.
but 10% is constant.
Correct. Rate is constant.
Rate is constant. So this 10% is constant. Every year you're going to get 10% extra. Okay.
Okay.
So in this case, can we use this formula now?
No.
We can't use this formula. Can we use this formula?
No.
No. So how do you calculate present value here? So here the present value is equal to future value upon R minus G.
What is G?
G is the growth rate,
Okay.
right? G is the growth rate.
Good.
So here if I say R is equal to 14%. Okay. So how you are going to calculate present value? Here present value will be, so you are here right now. Correct. So which is the immediate next year cash flow? The immediate next year cash flow is 50 rupees. So you will calculate the present value using this 50 rupees. So you'll say 50 rupees upon R. R is what? It is 14%. And what is the growth rate? The growth rate is 10%.
10%.
So what is going to be the present value? It is going to be 50 divided by 4%. So just divide 50 by 4%. You get 1250 rupees. Got it?
Yes.
So I don't expect you to understand it 100% because I'll still have to connect the dots. I've explained you in
No,
part.
this is good. This is good.
Right. No, once you
Yeah.
understand the entire concept, once I connect the dots, you'll have a
Yeah.
holistic view. Okay. This is
Understood.
right.
This
So
is
what I've tried to do since example number 3, 4, and 5. So in example number 3, there were future. So future value is the future cash flows I'm talking about. Okay. So example number 3, you had future cash flows. Those future cash flows were finite or those were infinite? The future cash
This
flows were finite or infinite?
future cash flows were infinite.
No, it was
No,
finite. So
These are
example
finite.
number 3, the future cash flows were finite. Okay.
Correct.
Example number 4, the future cash flows were infinite,
Infinite and
but they
even
were
the
constant.
constant in terms of
Money,
future money.
right? But in example number 5, the cash flow was infinite, but it was growing at a constant rate.
Correct. The rate was constant.
Rate was constant. So let me just tell you that future cash flows, the nature of future cash flows. So the future cash flows can be finite or the future cash flows can be infinite. Okay. If it is finite, you have example number 3. If it is infinite, then this infinite can be with zero growth or this can be infinite with a constant growth rate. Correct?
Yeah.
Zero growth rate is your example number 4.
4.
Constant growth rate is your example number 5. Got it?
Yeah.
Okay. So
We'll put the formula here only.
yes, well, I'll write the formula here. So for finite, the formula is present value is equal to future value upon 1 plus
1 plus
R
rate upon number of years.
n. If it is infinite, what is going to be
This-
the present value? Was zero
it-
growth rate. It is going
it
to
is-
be future value upon R.
Yeah.
And if it is growing at a constant rate, then it is going to be present value is going to be equal to future value
Value upon R minus growth.
R minus growth.
And the first one, it will be twice, right? It will be the number of since it's finite years.
Mhm.
For example number 3, you will put 2 such brackets or 3 such brackets.
So that would again depend on the
On
different.
how many finite years there are.
How many finite years are there? So if it's just
Understood.
2, you will do it 2. Let's say the amounts are same. So we'll have a different varieties of it that let's say this 500 rupees is arising constantly. So for 5 years, you are getting 500 rupees every year. Then we will have a question where we will have 500 rupees. Next year it's 800. Third year it is 300. Fourth year it is 900. Fifth year it is. So we'll have all the varieties of the
Okay.
cash flow. But the concept is same. Concept is that you have to calculate the present value for each year and then just add it to get the total consolidated present value. So what what my objective is to make you understand that whenever you make any kind of investment, the investment is going to give you future cash flows. Those future cash flows, the nature of the future cash flows can be finite or it can be infinite. If it is finite, use this formula. If it is infinite, use this formula. If it has got zero growth, and if it has got growth, then use this formula. Okay.
Understood.
So this is what, and just keep this thing in mind. It will help you to solve a lot of questions, right? And most of the students, they try to mug up the formula, and I don't want you to mug up the formula.
No, I can't mug up only. That is my problem. I
So-
just can't mug up.
So just understand the concept where to apply which formula. Because right now, if I say that in exam, they are not going to ask you questions like this.
Yeah.
Like how I have explained. So what happens usually when it is being taught in the class, it is taught in this manner. So this looks very easy to understand. But when the same question is asked in a proper paragraph form, given that ABC Limited has made some investments and all those things, and at that point of time, students find it difficult to comprehend that question and find out which formula is to be used. So that confusion should not arise at all. You should be very clear what is the nature of the future cash flows, whether it is finite, it is infinite, growth, zero growth, whatever the case is. Accordingly, we are going to put the formula. I am not going to deviate from these three formulas throughout financial management. That's a promise. Okay. So you just have to understand these three formulas. Okay.
Understood.
And I'll also tell you the logic how we got this. So technically, if you see this, if it is zero growth, so R minus zero is again what? So it's the same formula we are using here.
Correct.
Right. So it's not a different formula, but just I've written it this way. Now, let's remove this formula right now. Let's ignore this. We'll cover this when we do some other chapter. Right now, we will focus upon only these two formulas, zero growth to constant rate, right?
Okay.
Which again brings me back to the concept of cost of equity, where I said the equity shares has a growth or the equity shares do not have growth. Got it?
Yeah.
How we are going to link? So which formula we are going to use here? It's again equity. Since it's equity, equity is irredeemable. Yes or no?
Yes.
Since equity is irredeemable, we will have finite or we will have infinite cash flows.
Yeah, infinite.
Infinite cash flow. Since it's an infinite cash flow with zero growth, infinite cash flow with growth.
Correct.
So now your cost of equity will be like this. So when we say the cost of equity with zero growth. Now we know if there is zero growth, what is the formula? The formula is future value divided by R into PV. Okay. Now, since there is zero
into PV or
sorry, divide by PV.
divide by PV.
Right. So present value is equal to future value divided by R. Okay.
Correct.
Now, this formula gets translated into PV is the present value. Present value is you are going to buy the share today. Yes or no?
Yes.
What is you are going to get in future? Dividend.
Dividend.
Okay. And since we are talking about the rate of return, since it's an equity share, what is going to be the rate of return? The rate of return will be cost of equity.
Correct.
Right. So this same formula gets translated into P0 equal to D1. D1 represents what dividend you are going to get a year later. Correct.
Okay.
And R is what? R is KE. The rate of
Cost
return.
of equity.
Yeah, cost of equity. Yes.
Cost of equity is your rate. How?
Cost of return. Remember, it's the expected return of the shareholder.
Correct. Yeah.
So cost is what? It is the expected return from the equity shareholder.
Okay.
So this is the formula, right?
Okay.
Now, I also said you that the same concept will be used when we study dividend policy. The same concept will be used when we study cost of capital. So In this, if you have to find out cost of equity, what is going to be the formula? The cost of equity will be equal to D1
D1
upon
upon P.
0.
P is
Price.
price per
Price.
share.
Yes. P0 is price per share and price per share today.
Okay.
What is D1? D1 is the expected
It's
dividend.
dividend the next year. Okay.
Yes, expected dividend next year. And what is KE? KE is the
Cost of equity.
cost of equity, that
Expected.
is expectation of equity shareholder, which again is your cost of equity. Make sense?
Yeah.
Does this make sense? So when we will study cost of capital, this is our formula.
Okay.
And when we study dividend policy, this is the formula,
Understood.
right? So the
Yeah.
concept is still from the time value. This is the concept of time value of money, which is the very fundamental concept of financial management, right?
Mhm.
But this is the logic. So you don't have two separate formulas for two separate chapters. It's the same formula.
Understood.
You have to
Yeah.
just flip it. Okay. Now
Understood.
let's see the cost of equity of a share which has constant growth. Now, since there is a constant growth and infinite, so which formula you are going to use? The formula would be PV equal to FV divided by R minus G, correct?
Yes.
The third formula.
Yes.
Now, again, if we translate the same formula into the cost of equity, it will be what? P0.
Hmm.
What is going to be the future value? It is going to be D1
D1
upon what is
rate
R? R is
the
KE
cost of equity
and this is G.
minus growth.
Got it?
Yeah. So this formula, just can we go one step behind?
Yeah,
Just the first one. No, the before one.
yeah.
Yeah. So this you calculate when you have no, this is not for equity. This formula you translated for equity that way. So
Yes.
when do
So
we use this
consider
formula?
so consider this as the skeleton
Okay. Okay.
and this is the body,
Okay. Understood.
right?
So then we will, that is only the basis, and this will be the formula that it will come up with.
Yes, yes.
Okay. So we will never actually use that formula.
Yeah, so basically this formula is used everywhere, but it's just that if you take X-ray of this formula, you'll find
Yeah,
this.
understood. Understood.
So
But
what
that's
I've
what I'm saying. But you will not never use that formula ever.
yes, so directly you're not going to use
Going
this
to use
formula.
this formula.
So
Huh, that's what I
that's what
wanted
I was
to.
trying to say, that in class they teach you this formula.
Correct. Correct. Understood.
Like this, like you'll never get a question that a year later you're getting 50, the next year you're getting 55, the next year you're getting 60.5. Now find out the price. So you'll never get a question like this. You will always get a question in terms of the dividend. So they will say that a company is expected to pay a dividend of X amount of rupees. The cost of equity is this, the growth rate is this, find out the price of the share. So we use this formula only, but we never write this formula. We write this formula. Okay.
Yeah.
The concept is this only. So basically how you derive this formula is here. So what is D1? D1 is the next year dividend. Right. What is KE? That is
Cost of
the cost
equity
of equity. G is the
growth.
constant growth rate. This is the constant growth rate. And what is P0 equal to? This is going to be
Present value.
the
Price.
price of share. and the price of share today. So this formula you will use when you study dividend policy. So there is a equity share which has got a growth. Find out the present value of the share. What should be the price of the share? And the same formula you will, if you have to find out cost of equity, what will you do? You'll say KE minus G, correct?
Hmm.
Is equal to D1 upon P0, correct? I've just taken
Yes, understood.
this there and now,
Yeah.
which again translates to KE is equal to D1
Given
upon P0.
plus G.
So this is the way to find out the cost of equity if there is a growth. So this is the one which we use in cost of capital. Got it?
Yeah,
Logic is clear,
understood. Yeah.
right? Simple logic here. Now, okay. What if you are given D0? I say D0 is 50 rupees and the growth rate is 10%. Then I say the price is, let's say, 400 rupees. You need to find out the cost of equity. Can you find out?
Yeah.
How will you find out?
Cost of equity. Um, it's price. No, it's
I help you with the formula.
yeah.
So this is the formula.
Correct. So cost of equity will be dividend upon price plus growth.
So,
Second one will
so here it is KE is equal to,
dividend upon price.
say D1, not dividend.
Okay.
I'll tell you a reason.
Hmm.
Right?
Yeah.
Now tell me.
But this is a D0.
Exactly. So you don't have D1.
Okay. This
You
is
have
what D0 stands for what?
D0.
Dividend.
So P0 is price as on today.
Okay.
P0 is dividend which is paid now.
Okay. So we
But
don't have the future dividend. We need the future dividend for this one.
so we are not given the future dividend. We are given D0, but we need
But
D1.
we have 10% growth rate. Na? So can we not
Exactly.
add 5 there?
Exactly. So
So
instead
we'll
of
do
me telling,
55.
yes, so instead of me telling you the formula, I wanted you to find out. So D1 is equal to D0
D0.
1 plus G. So exactly what we did here.
Yeah.
50 plus 10% and we
Yeah.
find out 55. So you have 50 and you have 1 plus G, that is 0.10. So you get 55. Got it?
Yeah.
So it is possible that when you solve the question, you may get D0 in the question, but don't use D0 and find out the cost of equity. You need
Yeah.
to find out D1, and based on D1, you will find out the cost of equity. Okay. Just remember this both when we study dividend policy as well as the cost of capital. Okay. Is this point clear?
Yes.
Okay. Now, how to find out whether it's a D0 or it's a D1? Because here I have written D0, D1. How will
If
you
they
find?
say it is, if the sum says that it is dividend next year, then it is D1. And if it is saying it's present, then it is D0.
So how will you find out? Exactly my question is that. How will you find out? How will the question say? So just you need to find out in what tense the question is, talking about the dividend. Does it
Okay.
say the company is contemplating to pay, company intends to pay, company is planning to pay, company will be paying? So all this is in future tense. This means
Correct.
it's D1.
Correct.
But if it says that if the sentence is in present tense or is it in the it's in the past tense, then you
Company
will say
has paid or company is
company
paying.
has paid, company had paid, company just paid, right?
Yeah.
So that is D0. So it's very, very important to understand, because again, D0, D1 can again make your question correct
Correct.
interpretation of that. So just remember if the question is in past tense or it is in the future tense, right?
Understood.
One is you need to use D1 and not D0. Secondly, check the question. If let's say this is in the past tense or this is in the present tense, this is what? This is D0. And if it's in the future tense, it's D1.
One.
And third, if D0 is given,
Then find D1 first.
yes, then find D1.
D1 first.
And this is like this, D0, 1
1 plus growth.
that's it.
Yeah.
Okay.
Understood.
So,
We'll stop here. Too much of
okay. No, absolutely. I was about to tell you that only because, okay. All right, we can stop then.
Yeah.
Well, I
Thank
can
you.
have not a problem.
Now tell me something. We will do it on Saturdays also.
I don't mind. So
Yeah, but we will
only
keep Sunday free.
absolutely, because Sunday anyway, 10 most probably once the lockdown restrictions get over, I will not be even to take no Saturdays. I'll be able to take Sunday because I also take lecture at National Law University for LLM students.
Okay.
I teach corporate law and insolvency law to them.
Oh, wow.
So that's 10 to 12 I teach there. So
Okay.
Sunday is occupied like that.
Okay, perfect.
So
Sunday at least I can't. I mean, one day I need that.
absolutely, absolutely, not a problem. So Saturday, tomorrow again we can set for this,
Okay, perfect.
and
In
then
the meantime, if you can send me the your account details and
sure,
the
email for the printout.
yes,
I'll
yes.
do
I
that.
can keep the email ready. I can keep the printout ready so that I can start
Sure,
working on it.
sure,
Yeah?
sure, absolutely.
Okay. And
All right.
what else? Do you have anyone for taxation? Please let me know.
Sure, I'll let you know.
That is one thing. And I have taken optional subjects. I have not started reading. So
Mhm.
any suggestions on which optional subject I should
Go for
take?
capital market.
Capital market.
Yes, I'll tell you why. Your capital market has got same as your financial management. Just go and see the past papers of capital market. You will realize that half of the paper is financial management.
No, Baba. One formula base is fine. I'm very bad with numbers.
But it's the same paper, the same questions, the same set of questions. You don't have to study separately for that.
Don't trust myself with numbers.
Okay, so what you
One second. I'll just tell you what are the options. One
so
is banking.
banking.
Banking was something I had chosen earlier.
Mhm.
One was banking. One second, I'll just tell you the options I have.
Trust me, I know the options and I can tell you that capital market is the safest option for you. What do? You just go through the past paper of, I'll send you a link. Just download the past, you just download the past paper of capital market and see the question paper. You will yourself realize that half of the paper is financial management only. And for the capital market, I will share some of the ICDR and LODR videos with you. So you can watch that offline. Okay. And your capital market paper will also get prepared.
See, I have international business law and practice. What is that?
I have no idea about it.
Okay.
I-
One is
so
banking.
usually students, they take banking, or they take IPR, or they take capital market.
I have to just put on banking. IPR also I don't want to do because it's too much of international law.
Yes, but for banking, again, you have, so why I'm telling you to go for this capital market, it's because you have financial management paper to give. And while studying for financial management, your 50% of capital market paper will get covered. And anyway, since it's an open book, you can take all the printouts of the material, printout materials and everything, you can carry it in your exam.
Okay.
So that will not be a problem for you.
Okay. Understood.
So just go and see the past paper of capital market and then you can take a decision.
Yeah.
Right?
That's it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right then. That's it. I'll
Thank you.
take a
Thank
leave.
you so
Yeah,
much.
you're welcome.
You send me the details,
Yeah,
both the
sure.
details.
Yeah, sure.
Yeah. Thank you. Have a nice day.
Yeah.
Bye-bye.
You